Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5, and I believe episode number 852 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada, always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is, I don't even know what day it is, to be totally honest. I'm on vacation. I'm all mixed up, but I believe it is Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, for broadcast on Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. As you can see by the light here, it's a gorgeous day here at the Puerto Vallarta Vacation Lodge. I've had to close the curtains, but the light is still coming through. That's why I sort of have this sort of a little bit of, heavenly sort of vibe to the background here today. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health today? I have to say mine is doing fine. I got a good night's sleep last night, which is nice, and today we went out for a nice morning walk. There's a place here in Puerto Vallarta which has a lookout point which requires not a huge long hike, but a fairly healthy hike up a very steep incline and set of stairs to get to the top, but the views are absolutely fantastic, and it was completely worth it. Stopped over at an eatery to have some empanadas today, which were my first ever empanadas, because every now and then I have to be careful because sometimes they could be a combination of different flours, but here it is strictly cornmeal based, and so I had some deep fried crunchy goodness. Had a martini later on, so I'm feeling quite good because they make them pretty strong here. I had a Cosmopolitan, and it was barely pink. There was very, very, very little cranberry juice in there. But the main impact has had time to wear off a little bit, so I'm still happy, but fully coordinated at the moment. Let's put it that way. We have a packed show for you today because there is a lot going on. Hope you had a good family day for those of you who had the time off and had the occasion to have some time with family. Also, hope that you had a great Flag Day on the 15th, our Maple Leaf, one of the most recognized flags out there, one of the most aesthetically pleasing, of course, if you ask me. As far as I'm concerned, our flag is not only aesthetically pleasing and not only widely recognized, but also pretty good branding for us. It is recognized right off the bat. Everybody knows it's Canada as soon as you see that maple leaf. And speaking of that maple leaf, hey, they played our song at the Olympics yet again because Canada struck gold one more time. Now, of all the potential gold medals that people were saying that Canada could win, this was probably the most expected one, given how the members of this team have been performing for the longest time. Canada won the medal in this event 4 years ago, and the gold in this one 4 years ago, and defended their Olympic title. And of course, it comes from our speed skaters, from which much was expected going in. But Isabelle Weideman, Yvanie Blondin, and Valérie Maltais were competing against Netherlands in the final of the team pursuit and did manage, of course, to defend their Olympic title. According to the CBC, skating together in the same event for 8 years, you learn how to build a championship formula. Canadian speed skaters Isabelle Weideman, Valérie Maltais, and Yvanie Blondin have possessed strong on-ice chemistry in the women's team pursuit since placing a surprise fourth at the 2019 World Championships. But that alone wasn't going to keep them atop the medal podium following their 2022 Olympic record performance in Beijing. With more parity in the sport came a change in strategy, with the Canadians opting to have the 6'2" Weideman lead and Maltais and Blondin behind her, pushing the entire race. So giving a little bit of a shielding there because you can drag in speed skating if you can tuck behind someone, and therefore you need to expend a little less effort. Quote, staying connected off ice has also been a key to success, which takes practice and dedication. Quote, we're three very different individuals and different athletes, Weideman said in November. But in Tuesday's Olympic final in Italy, Canada worked as one, utilizing precise strategy and successfully defending its title, prevailing over the Dutch, who are absolutely a fantastic team when it comes to speed skating. They typically are the team to beat, especially in long track. They covered 6 laps at Milano's Speed Skating Stadium in 2 minutes 58.81 seconds, while the Netherlands clocked 2:56.77, so almost a full second ahead. Quote, we're a little bit in shock, Weideman told CBC Sports. We had 2 races today, so we couldn't look far ahead. After the semifinal, we weren't talking about silver. We've got a job to do still. 4 years ago, Canada's long track athletes set a Games record in Beijing to defeat defending champions Japan in 2:53.44. On Tuesday, Weideman, Maltais, and Blondin became the first repeat champions in the event since Germany in 2006, who won in Turin or Torino and Italy. Torino, Italy, and 2010 Vancouver, I should say. So they joined freestyle skiers Mikael Kingsbury and Megan Oldham as Canadian champions in Italy, where the 207-member team has also earned 4 silver medals and 5 bronze. So this is absolutely a fantastic result for them. And yeah, it's great to be able to celebrate with them. And also, if you are watching the Olympics, if you were a little bit worried about our women's curling team after they started 1 win and 3 losses, along with a surprise loss to the United States, and of course Rachel Homan having had a rock taken out of play against Switzerland after all this controversy about double touching. As we mentioned on yesterday's show, they had won their 2 matches against Japan and China, but today they were facing unbeaten Sweden, who had a perfect 6-0, and it was a good match for both teams. In the 9th end, both teams were tied 6-6, with Canada having the hammer. On her last shot, the skip from Sweden, Anna Hasselborg, was attempting to make a double takeout and rest, so it would force Canada to have to draw clear to the full 4-foot in order to win. She did not successfully make her shot. She only removed 1 of the stones, but she was still lying shot, but it left a clear nose hit for Rachel Homan, and this time she did not miss. Canada scored 2 in the 10th and 1-8-6. Meanwhile, on another sheet, Korea, who was 1 place ahead of Canada in the standings, was facing Switzerland, one of the top teams, and Korea, or South Korea, was not able to defeat Switzerland. So now Canada and South Korea are tied at a record of 4-4 with 2 matches left. Canada plays Italy next, which is close to the bottom of the rankings. So if everything goes according to form, it should be a win, but there are no easy games at the Olympics and anything can happen, as we saw with the loss to the United States. And South Korea, now it's their turn to face Sweden, who will probably looking to regroup. And in the last, which let's say if Canada happened to have lost to Italy and South Korea win against Sweden, the last match is Canada versus South Korea. And if Canada were to win the match against South Korea, then Canada would advance because the head-to-head match would be the tiebreaker if they were both sitting at 5-5 after round robin play. And I say round robin almost because they're only playing. I believe it's a round robin for. They're playing all the teams except one. I think the way that the draw has taken place. So there could be the need for a different type of tiebreaker, but given that Canada and South Korea will be playing head-to-head, that is what is going to determine the victory. So it's looking good for them, and for the men, with 2 matches left to play, they have already qualified for the playoff round, currently sitting in second with a 2-win margin over 2 teams that are tied for third right now. So good news from our curlers. It was looking a little shaky for a while, but it seems that both the men and women have regrouped well after this whole controversy. It also seems that, and I haven't read too much about this, I just saw a headline, but the IOC had determined, or maybe it was the Curling Federation, that had determined that there would be umpires at the hog line for all the matches. And it seems that they have reversed that and they have gone back to the regular situation where the umpires are at the ends. And if there's a violation or somebody brings something to someone's attention, that they would come to the line and monitor for 3 ends. And if there are no other violations, go back to the extremities of the ice. So we'll see what happens from there. But so far, things are looking good. So, but important thing is that they played our song yet again. The Maple Leaf is waving high and proud, and hopefully there will be yet more success from our athletes now that the ball seems to have gotten rolling. So hey, there's lots to cheer for yet, and of course we have Paralympics coming up very soon as well. So hey, it's a good time to be Canadian, kids and cubs. Of course, it's always a good time to be Canadian. All right. In other news that we have for you today, kids and cubs, there really is a lot. Yesterday, we were talking about Pierre Poilievre being fully over. And there's a lot of news that has been coming up having to do with that kind of feeds into that. One of them is there's more public opinion polling results that are coming in from various individual pollsters. Of course, we go to 338 Canada for the aggregate numbers, but those are only updated on Sundays. However, Liaison had shown a while ago that the Liberals had a lead of, I would say, if I remember correctly, it was Liberals +7 about a week and a half ago, is now showing Liberals +9. So there was a 2-point gain for the Liberals there. And that is definitely very encouraging. It seems that the trend is our friend with regard to the lead still growing. And I believe that this one is showing on approvals for both Pierre Poilievre and for the Prime Minister. Pierre Poilievre at -7 net approval, or in this case disapproval. The Prime Minister at +22 for a 29-point gap between the two. So the latest Liaison strategies poll is dated February 8th, and the previous one was February 1st, so within about the space of the week, a week, according to the data that's being released. On the other side of the ledger, though, Nanos polling has come up. They have a weekly rolling poll, and on this one, they're showing a drop of the Liberal lead from Liberal +4 to Liberal +1. Not because the Liberals are necessarily falling big. They've just dropped from 39 to 38, but they're showing a 2-point jump for the Conservatives, from 35 to 37 on Nanos, and this probably at the expense of the NDP, who dropped from 13 to 11 on that one. So I'm not too worried about that, because if an election were called today, and as we've mentioned several times on the show, the situation of Donald Trump, being the threat that he is, hasn't changed. So there's no reason for which NDP voters who did lend their vote to the Liberals in the last election wouldn't still do so, given the current circumstances, if they felt that there actually was a threat from the Conservatives to form government. So this is data that is certainly not very favorable to the Conservatives, particularly when you consider that the Abacus data pool that we were mentioning also with a data from the 8th, indicating the Liberals having the largest lead that they've had in a long time over the Conservatives. And as you know, if you've been following the show, Abacus data has been one of the polling companies that have been showing Conservatives being close to the Liberals all throughout, no matter what was going on, whatever other polls were showing. They were kind of the outlier, along with Angus Reid, creating the impression that the Conservatives were still somewhat in it, and that has started to break. So not great news for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives on that front. There's also a couple of other things that have been going on in the House of Commons. Pierre Poilievre has been trying to, and the Conservatives have been trying to accuse the Liberals of obstructing their initiatives. And of course, as you know, with Conservatives, most things are BS, and this is indeed the case. The reality is that there are 6 bills that the Conservatives have been obstructing. A lot of them are bills, some of them are bills on crime, which Conservatives say they want action on, and the Conservatives have been countering that by presenting motions that are not bills, number one, that are not binding, don't have teeth, and then when they are voted against, they run to their social media for clicks and say, "Oh my God, the Liberals voted against this. The Liberals are so terrible. They don't want to fight crime." But these are, let's put it this way: the way that the motions are written certainly would not accomplish what a bill would do. They're not as detailed. And these motions are written specifically for the purposes of being able to provide these clips, just like question period is being used as a backdrop, so that the Conservatives can get their clip. That's why they have various MPs repeating the same question, so they can each get their own clips, so that they can then populate social media and flood the zone with BS and talk about how terrible the Liberals are. These motions are not serious work, right? This is the laziest form of politicking that you can have. Write a motion that is not a bill, that you don't have to put a lot of thought into, if we did X, what would happen, what would be the consequences, and, would this be particularly effective or not? They don't care if the proposal would be effective. The plan pretty much sucks, to be totally honest. Where there is a real bill that could be being debated in House and in committee, that they are obstructing. So these motions are not serious pieces of work. They're essentially marketing tools, right? The Conservatives are not doing policy, they're doing marketing for the sole purpose of creating a situation where Liberals and other members of the House, of course, from other parties, would vote against them, and then they run to the cameras and then tell their base that Liberals don't really want to fight crime, and then get the low information voters and voters that tend to believe that Donald Trump is doing a good job, and they're also more prone to believe this type of disinformation, to then open up their wallets and donate to the Conservative Party, thus again confirming our theory that the Conservative Party probably doesn't actually really want to win an election, so long as the money keeps coming in and keeps them in the lifestyle to which they have grown accustomed, because they are a fundraising machine, no doubt about that. But so long as low information voters who are predisposed to not liking anything Ottawa, anything Canada, and think that Trump is doing great, are willing to open their wallets to the Conservative Party of Canada, they're going to keep on doing this, because it seems that they care more about the money than the policy. And that's pretty much the game here. So while they're doing marketing, all the adults in the room are actually trying to do policy. And this is starting to become apparent now to a lot of people, and they're starting to be called out on this in various media. And of course, different podcasters, Klaus Kellerman, I believe, Bill Kelly, I believe, the Rational National, I believe, the folks from Planet D. There's a whole lot of people that are noticing this trend, and they're being called out on it. And there was a perfect example of this a couple of days ago, actually, when a conservative MP tried to create the illusion that there was a pay raise coming to MPs that had been voted on. There is, I believe, there is a law that makes it such that some of these things actually somewhat happen automatically. So he wrote a letter and asked basically to have his pay raise canceled. Now, of course, there actually is no mechanism for this to actually happen. There is no administrative or legal mechanism for a prescribed pay increase that was going to take place to not occur. So this conservative MP, going to find his name for you here, according to the CBC, and this is an article written by Darren Major of the CBC, and says here it's Conservative MP Mike Dawson, and he's a New Brunswick MP. Says here, Conservative MP says he is asking the House of Commons to freeze his salary before parliamentarians get their annual pay bump in April. New Brunswick MP Mike Dawson posted a letter on Facebook where he asks the clerk of the House to make the necessary arrangements, this is a quote, with the Payroll and Benefits Administration to ensure that his salary doesn't increase. Like they're going to make an exception just for him. Like the people in payroll and HR don't have a lot of work to do already, that they're going to take time out of their day to make an exception just for him because he's grandstanding. Quote, at a time when everyday Canadians are struggling to keep up with the rising cost of living, I cannot in good conscience accept the pay increase, Dawson wrote in his letter. It's frankly distasteful that parliamentarians are set to receive a raise while the working man and woman in this country hasn't seen a decent raise in decades. Parliamentarians of all stripes will receive a salary bump because of the annual increases written in the legislation governing politicians' pay. The precise number each year comes from tracking an index of wage settlements in the private sector, according to the House of Commons. Employment and Social Development Canada has yet to publish the final indexed rate for 2025, but Dawson indicated in his letter that he anticipates it would be roughly around $10,000. Dawson said taking a pay raise at this moment would go against his moral compass. So quote, I didn't come here for the salary. I came here because I wanted to do better for Canada and better for the riding of Miramichi Grand Lake, he told CBC News in an interview. And of course, that is bullshit because he's asking for something that can't actually legally be done, for which there is no mechanism. Dawson said if he can't opt out of the raise, he will look to donate it to local charities or food banks. Yes, that is something that he could do. And if he was serious about this, however, when he makes the donation, there will probably be a charitable donation tax slip that comes to him for that purpose. And then, of course, political donations are rather generously subsidized by the Canadian taxpayer. And if he declared that on his taxes, well, then Mr. Dawson would be getting all the PR from saying, oh, no, I don't want the raise. And, oh, no, well, look at me. What a good person I am. I am donating it to charity. So the only way he could do this would be to make the donation to a charity, not report it on his taxes, but then he would have to show proof to Canadians that he didn't actually write it down on his taxes, which would mean having to show his tax form, which is rather personal information, and I'm not sure that he might be willing to do that. So this seems like a lot of grandstanding. According to Canada.ca and according to Revenue Agency Services, line 34900 on your income tax form is where you declare your donations, gifts, and it says here, generally you can claim part or all of the eligible amount of your gifts up to 75% of your net income for that year. And hopefully I was hoping that this would indicate what percentage here of the donation you would get back or get a credit for here, but I can't see it off the top of my head. I will do more research for that, or if anybody in the damn fam in the chat happens to know how much of that you actually get back. But that's the only way he could actually do this if he actually was serious about not taking the money. So is donating the money and then not declaring it on his taxes in order to get the tax benefit from having made a donation. Now, according to this article here, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, which is not a serious outfit, of course, rushed to offer him praise. Quote, "It takes courage to stand alone and do the right thing, and Dawson is showing real guts to turn down this pay raise." No, it doesn't show guts to demand something that actually can't be done. All right. Now, this did not work out very well for him among even his own colleagues, because a few days later, according to Kate McKenna, JP Tasker, and Catherine Cullen of CBC News, the Conservative MP who went public with his intent to refuse a pending parliamentary pay increase was called out by the party whip in front of his colleagues and heckled as he tried to defend his decision, CBC News has learned. In a letter to the House of Commons clerk that was made public Tuesday, of course, he asked for his pay increase to not be granted. And it says here, that letter has not gone over well with some of his fellow Conservative MPs who are now facing uncomfortable questions from their own constituents about why they are willing to accept a roughly $10,000 salary increase set to take effect in April. Backbench MPs are currently paid $209,800, with committee chairs, ministers, then the Prime Minister, the Speaker, and his deputies, among the other office holders, entitled to additional remuneration. The party's whip, Chris Workington, called Dawson out from the front of the room during a caucus meeting on Wednesday, multiple caucus sources told CBC News. Workington told Dawson's that the scheduled pay bump is set out in law and he's legally required to take it. The Parliament of Canada Act sets MP salaries or, quote, sessional allowances, as they're called in legislation, and includes a provision that increases them every year using a complex formula based on pay increases in the private sector. It's not clear how Dawson could refuse this statutory increase. He could, like other MPs have done in the past, simply donate a portion of his higher salary to charity. Dawson was standing at the microphone used by MPs to speak to the leader, whip, and other caucus leaders when he was being dressed down by Workington, one caucus source said. When it was his chance to speak, some MPs, between 6 or 8 of them, started to heckle him, and he abruptly left the meeting, sources said. I am petty. Reached by phone Thursday morning, Dawson confirmed there was a dust-up. Workington, quote, didn't like that I did it and called me out in front of the caucus. Of course he didn't like that you did it because you grandstanded for some personal publicity, not having factored in the consequence on the rest of your caucus, that all of them would be asked whether or not they would be giving theirs up too. And if not, why not? Maybe that's something you should have consulted with your caucus before you went out and went rogue. But you did it because you wanted to self-aggrandize, and you didn't really think it through, did you? Hey, if the Conservatives are going to be fighting amongst themselves, I'm all for it. The MP said the party whip told him, quote, I should have done it a different way, I guess, but I disagree, Dawson said. It's my money. If the rest of the caucus didn't want to do it, I didn't ask the rest of the caucus to do it. Thus, would be a petulant little one all the way to the end. He was wrong. He should just have admitted he was wrong, and he hung his party out to dry. He should probably apologize to them for that. But as a true Conservative, never admit fault, never apologize, and just move on to the next smear, like nothing happened. Dawson said there was, quote, a lot of chirping going on, so now it's chirping, from other MPs when he tried to defend his actions at the microphone. Quote, I couldn't speak. When I was trying to speak, nobody could hear anything I was trying to say, Dawson said. He confirmed he left amid the heckling. Wonder if he might leave the caucus. One caucus source said the heckling Dawson faced, quote, wasn't that bad considering the level of anger there is among MPs right now toward him for going public with the pay issue. Quote, he's opened a whole can of worms, the source said. Dawson said he spoke to Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre later by phone and they had a great conversation, quote, and there were, quote, no disagreements, but he wouldn't elaborate further. Workington and a spokesperson for Poilievre did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Gee, I wonder why they want this story to go away. You make a comment, you give it legs. Asked if what transpired bothered him, Dawson said he's not looking for respect from his parliamentary colleagues. You should. Not a team player. But again, that's not odd within Conservative ranks, now is it? Quote, I'm there to represent the people of Miramichi-Grand Lake. Those are the ones I care about if people respect me or not, he said. And asked if the fracas is causing him to rethink his position in the Conservative caucus, Dawson said he's not considering crossing the floor to another party or sitting as an independent. Quote, I'm a Conservative and I'm not a traitor, he said. Which you threw your entire party under the bus. But okay. Dawson is also vowing to push ahead with his attempt to dodge the pay increase despite some potential legal hurdles. Quote, I'm not stopping. That's not in my DNA. Oh my God, I drove my car 100 miles an hour or 100 kilometers an hour, because we're in Canada, into a brick wall. And you know what? Let's see if it works if I do it at 120. Oh my God. Residents of Miramichi-Grand Lake, you got yourselves a 20, you have a 100 watt bulb socket, but you got yourself a 20 watt bulb. You might need to elect another MP next time around. The one you got doesn't shine too bright. That's all I'm going to say on that one. As well, Doug Ford, because you know there's no love lost between Doug Ford and the Conservative Party of Canada. Well, he stuck the knife in Pierre Poilievre just a little bit. There's reporting going on that Doug Ford has been encouraging Mark Carney to do what he did, to call a snap election and go get himself a majority. And it seems that the Prime Minister is not particularly interested in that, although could be setting the stage for something like that to happen, in the sense that I truly believe that the Prime Minister just wants to get on with the work. But if Pierre and the Conservatives are going to keep on obstructing, as we mentioned before, then the Prime Minister pointing out their obstruction could lay the groundwork for him to go to the Governor General and saying, hey, they're obstructing. We can't get anything through. We need an election. And then go get his majority that way if he doesn't get it through a floor crossing. So Doug Ford, somewhere along there, was being asked about Pierre Poilievre's victory at his hand-picked leadership convention. And according to CBC here, and this is Peter Zamonic, Ontario Premier Doug Ford says Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre may have secured the overwhelming support of his party, not really of his party, of overwhelming support of 4,000 or so delegates, about 2,600 who showed up, who voted for him, that were handpicked and allegedly being asked if they were going to vote yes to Pierre staying on before selected, even though many of them are denying that. But allegedly, word on the tweet says. Doug Ford says Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre may have secured the overwhelming support of those people in a recent leadership vote, but cautioned that elections are not won on the convention room floor. Poilievre secured 87% of the delegates in Calgary last month, but Doug Ford said, you don't win elections at conventions, you win elections across the country, so let's see what happens if the Prime Minister decides to call an election, Ford said on Tuesday. Ford and Poilievre's strained relationship burst into the open during the last federal election when the Premier said he wouldn't support publicly any of the federal Conservative candidates running in Ontario, which of course caused Jamil Jivani to claim that Doug Ford sabotaged the Conservatives in the last election. No, the Conservatives sabotaged themselves by having a really crap platform and an economic costing that got them laughed out of any boardroom. It was really bad. It was really bad. During the last federal election campaign, Ford's former campaign manager, Corey Tenike, also accused Poilievre's team of, quote, campaign malpractice for failing to adapt to the threats made by U.S. President Donald Trump. When asked about Tenike's remarks at the time, Ford said, "The truth hurts. Guess I'm not the only one who could be petty." Apparently, there were recent efforts by the new strategist brought in by the Conservatives, Mr. Steve Outhouse, to try to get the sides to play nice together. I'm guessing that that's not going very well. And then during that press conference, tried very hard to not say that he gave Mark Carney advice to go to an earlier election. I don't divulge our conversations, but I'll be very frank with you. When you get 13 premiers in a room, politics comes up, and politics of every type comes up. Asked about the conversation, as reported by the Globe and Mail, that he encouraged Mark Carney to go early, quote, he said that there were, quote, only two people in the room, me and him, and what was said will remain between the two leaders. I've always said, I don't care about political stripes. I'll work with anyone. I think I proved that. I don't care if it's a Liberal federal government or an NDP mayor. I'll work with anyone that has the best interests of Ontario at heart. Steve Outhouse, the federal Conservative campaign manager, trying to get them to play nice, is quoted as saying, "As an Atlantic Canadian who has worked on campaigns across the country, I have a great respect for all parts of our Conservative voter coalition. Each part has its strength, and I'm looking forward to working with all parts of the Conservative movement to win the next election, whenever that is. Good luck to you, Mr. Outhouse, because the Conservative Party of Canada, as it exists, is a purity test party. And I still am amazed that a party that is trailing the Liberals and has a leader that is trailing the Prime Minister so badly still feels it has the luxury to say, oh, you're not a real Conservative. You don't belong here. We don't want you to sit with us." But they believe they do. So, hey, let them keep doing that. Now, earlier in this, I mentioned Jivani stating that Doug Ford had sabotaged Conservatives. And then yesterday I was talking about Jivani claiming that he wanted to cooperate with the Liberals, who he has been accusing of creating liberal racism since last October. Apparently, Jivani now wants to work with liberal racists in good faith. And he granted an interview to the National Post saying, well, Mark Carney is wrong. I'm not trying to seek attention for myself through the media. If I was doing that, I could be giving a whole bunch of interviews to the media. And I haven't. I would be on every TV show. Well, he's not going to the TV show. But as we mentioned yesterday, he went to Breitbart. And not that I like to give Breitbart any credit, but since we are talking about it, hopefully I can get this up for you. And take a little look of what it is that he actually said to Breitbart. Now, of course, the comment about Canada having hissy fit has pretty much gone all throughout the media. But let's see if there's anything else that he had to say. This is by Nick Gilbertson for Breitbart. Jamil Jivani, a Conservative member of Canada's Parliament who represents Bowmanville, Oshawa North, told SiriusXM's Breitbart News Saturday that Canadian officials are harming the country with their, quote, anti-American hissy fit on trade. Jivani joined Breitbart, and just make this a little larger here for me. Jivani joined Breitbart News Washington Bureau Chief Matthew Boyle on the program on the heels of meeting with President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio earlier this month, which led to a Liberal member of Parliament, John Paul Danko, labeling Jivani a Nazi sympathizer. Jivani, who has known Vance for a decade and a half, said he took it upon himself to meet with top American officials because of the stalemate and lack of communication between the two countries on trade. Quote, I've been friends with Vice President Vance for 15 years now. We went to law school together, so I've been watching this whole thing go on for months and months now, where the Canadian economy is genuinely struggling. We're losing jobs. We lost 52,000 private sector jobs in the last month alone. They're saying we're in a recession, watch. So I thought, let me go down there, Jivani said. I know the vice president. Let me go chat with him, see if there's anything I can do to help build a bridge between our two governments, because right now it's been 3.5 months of very little dialogue between the two countries. Gee, I wonder whose fault that is. Who walked away from the table? That doesn't matter to him. And so I got a chance to meet President Trump as well. Good conversations. Based on the interview he gave to the National Post, President Trump was kind of like in a meeting at the time, and kind of like, if you actually read that National Post interview, everything that Jivani says about that meeting is framed in kind of, sort of, like, and then once they get off that topic, there's no more use of kind of and sort of and like in there. But the gist of it is that President Trump was in another meeting. Somebody came in with them, said, "Oh, this is Jivani," and then didn't last very long because the president was busy. And then the president had a message for us that Jivani brought back. And since then, he's been repeating the American lines to us rather than our message to it. So I think it's pretty clear on what side he stands. And it doesn't look like he got all that much time with the president. When he says good conversations, it also seems that the president did most of the talking in whatever tiny, tiny, tiny window he got, while the president was already having a meeting, or kind of meeting, with someone at the time he walked in, according to Jivani. Quote, "I found them very receptive to a lot of what I had to say." I don't think he had a lot to say. He didn't have a chance. And I think, at least with the president, maybe with the other people he met with. And I think most Canadians saw that and said, great, this guy's trying to help. No, that's not what we're saying. But a lot of the liberals in my country just had a total freak out. And, I've been called a Nazi. I've been called all kinds of juvenile names in response to this. And, from my point of view, this is about trying to save Canadian jobs. And these guys have tried to turn this into, petty schoolyard insults. So it's been an insane last week and a half trying to figure out how to get some of these folks to grow up and mature so we can hopefully get a deal done with the president. The grow up and mature, the guy that said that Doug Ford sabotaged the liberals, the guy that is marketing liberal racism, the guy that had been hired, Doug Ford, to work for certain communities, and turns out he was working against them. He's the grown-up, mature one, and everybody else has to reach his level. The delusion is strong with this one. Jivani emphasized that he is a black man when underscoring the absurdity of being labeled a Nazi sympathizer. Quote, "Just for some context, Matt, I'm a black man, and I'm the first black member of parliament from my riding, or as Americans call it, district. So that's who they're calling a Nazi, right? Like, how crazy has this gotten? Where it's just illogical," he noted. And what we're trying to put across here is, there's a pathway forward, and America and Canada need each other. We share the largest border in the world. We have to work together. But for Canada in particular, 3/4 of our exports go through the United States. Not for long, he added. We are shooting ourselves in the foot if we continue this anti-American hissy fit, because leave it for some guy who says that he wants to cooperate to qualify what we're doing when we are standing up for ourselves and asserting a little independence and sovereignty as being a hissy fit. Of course he would call it that, especially if he is working for the other side being the Americans. It's like, it's Pete Hoekstra in a Jamil Jivani's body. But it's Pete Hoekstra's words here, in his mouth. And this is the kind of reason I'm trying to talk to in our government, and some of the liberals who have just gone way off, and excuse me for saying these words, it's a quote, liberals who have just gone way off the reservation on this, because why not throw in just a little casual racism while you're at it? The guy campaigning on liberal racism just used going off the reservation. Yeah, this is my unimpressed face. Wow. Jivani told Boyle that there is common ground between what he wishes Canada could achieve and what the Trump administration wishes to achieve in the United States, particularly regarding the revitalization of manufacturing locales in both countries. Quote, "I'm certainly optimistic after chatting with the president, the vice president. I shared with them that I think we need a sense of urgency to get this done," he said. I have people losing jobs in my community, in large part due to the uncertainty that has been created by the lack of progress on a trade agreement here. Oh, he finally mentions that. Okay. He finally realized that that's happening. The president was clear to me. He said, please tell the Canadians I love them. He's still working that. Okay. I think he wants Canadians to understand that whatever issues exist between our governments, it is not a reflection of his views of the Canadian people, which I think is an important thing for people to know and keep in mind. And that and a smile won't even buy you a cup of coffee at Starbucks, buddy boy. We don't care how much he loves the Canadian people. He doesn't believe Canadian industry should exist unless we are a client state of the United States of America. How he feels about the Canadian people is utterly irrelevant to us being able to strike a deal on trade, especially one that would be good for us. This guy's a mess. He's all over the place. They are very clear in their desire to want to rebuild American towns and cities that have been gutted by the decline of American manufacturing, he continued. That is the vision of the Trump administration. That is the vision of the vice president, to want to rebuild places like Toledo and Cleveland and Detroit. And so, they shared that priority with me, like we didn't know. Like he needed to go there to have that shared. And I understand that because on the Canadian side of the border, we want to do the same for similar towns like Hamilton and Oshawa. So I think we found a lot of commonality in what we want to achieve for our respective countries. Yes, but he doesn't want to help us achieve that for ours, and you want to help him achieve that for his. That's the problem, Mr. Jivani. And that's why people are mocking you. Where we need to get now is to a point of dialogue where we can do that together, where it is not an opportunity cost to grow jobs in the auto industry in Canada, but we can actually be supporting the growth of manufacturing on both sides of the border at the same time. The Trump administration is not interested in that, Mr. Jivani. Jivani emphasized he wants to see a, quote, willingness from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney to engage in dialogue, adding that while Mexico and the United States have made progress on the trade talks, the same cannot be said for Canada. Jivani said it is a red flag that Canada is unable to make progress, but Mexico is. Sure. And then it just goes on and on and on. The rest I'm not going to go into, but you kind of get the gist. This guy is not on Team Canada in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, it keeps on getting worse for the Conservatives. And on that front, kids and cubs, Warren Kinsella, who, again, not particularly a great fan of this person, and he's not particularly pro-liberal in any way, shape, or form. And he had a little interesting take on what was going on with Mr. Jivani and what is going on with Pierre Poilievre, and he was not afraid to make it known. He actually went public with his point of view, and it's kind of interesting because he's calling out Pierre Poilievre while essentially pretty much mocking Jamil Jivani, which is kind of interesting. I'm just looking for it here. I'm sorry. Kids and cups. And for some reason, it appears to have disappeared from my screen. However, I will be able to find it in another way if you will just bear with me for a second or two. And I will be able to bring it up because fortunately there was an image, and there you go. So I'll just look at it from the images. Warren Kinsella said, I don't give a damn if you're a liberal or a conservative. You don't go to the US, as Jivani did, and shit on your country. You particularly don't do so when your country is under attack by the US. I can't see Poilievre being happy about any of this. He's clever enough to know that Jivani will feature prominently in liberal attack ads that may be coming sooner than later. Ouch. So, Mr. Poilievre, is Mr. Kinsella correct? Are you clever enough? If so, when are you going to take out your trash? Actually proud Canadians would like to know. The same. Other things that would give you a sense that things are going bad as well is Pierre Poilievre apparently now, because an obsession with masculinity and machismo is one of the 14 characteristics of fascism, according to philosopher Umberto Eco, did this whole fitness sort of video clip where he's I guess trying to show what a masculine man he is. And that was also mercilessly mocked all over. And this masculine focus is kind of weird coming from the conservatives, and it's kind of manifesting in very weird ways. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but there was a conservative MP who came into the House of Commons, I think at some point last week it was, with a very young infant that he had a baby holder around him, and was talking about, I guess, being a proud father. I mean, this is great. We want gender parity, right? Parental leave in Canada is available to men as much as women. We've seen some women bring their very, very young children to the House of Commons so they can do their work and still parent at that time. Particularly, feeding time can happen when you're at work. Babies have to eat frequently and often. So this image was a really good image to see a man with his young child coming to work, showing an example, showing that Canada is a country where we can do this and that men will not get mocked for having done that this is considered completely normal and that it's encouraged. But this person, Jacob Mantle, his name is, posted on Facebook, "Strong families are built on strong, committed, and masculine fathers. I'm looking forward to celebrating Family Day this year as a first-time father." During statements by members in the House of Commons. Why is masculine even in that sentence? Why couldn't it just be strong families are built on strong, committed, and strong and committed fathers? Why do the fathers have to be masculine? Or whatever his definition of masculine is. There's a constant feeding of that trope. We saw it with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, right? This nice hair. All that advertisement that was suggesting that the Prime Minister was too effete, too feminine to be a credible leader. I'm not sure what the obsession here with masculinity is. Why do fathers have to meet this particular Conservative MP's definition of what masculine is? Very, very weird. But we're getting to the point now where we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, trying to appeal to the base. CrossFit videos and claiming that we need masculine fathers. It's all very weird. It's Cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially when you say why our content resonates with you. If you would like to help us get some Cubs, there's two ways you can do so. One is by scanning this QR code. If you already haven't become a member of our YouTube page, please go there and click like, share, and subscribe because that helps us with the algorithm, and that's very important. And of course, we love to see our numbers go up, so thank you for that. And another way you can help is if you scan this QR code, it will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. And there you can make a contribution to the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. Because you are what you drink, why not help me out with a fruity smoothie? Because a moist beaver is a very happy beaver. So do your bit to keep your favorite beaver or grizzly moist with a nice little donation. We thank you so much. And if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is the way to do it and bypass the US CE Tech Bros. Now, if you cannot make a donation in cash, you can contribute in other ways by using that same email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, or, of course, make some guest suggestions. Or if you've got some good news, let us share in your joy. all that good stuff. Please write to us. We love to hear from you. We're not able to answer everyone, but we do read everything that you send and you write. So thank you so much for that. Because democracy is something that you do, we have a by-election on the 23rd in Chicoutimi, provincial by-election, if you happen to be in Quebec. So please go out and vote for that. If you are voting in the NDP leadership race, please note that the final debate will be February 19th, so in 2 days. Please go for that. We have 2 petitions for you to sign if you haven't already, and one of them closes tomorrow. It's a petition to encourage the House of Commons to pass legislation such that Canadian media should be owned by Canadians to produce news that is for the benefit of Canadians. That's House of Commons petition E6821. If you go to ourcommons.ca and look for petition E6821, you can sign that. And there's also House of Commons petition E7148 that would encourage House of Commons to take some action to make it such that Pierre Poilievre would need to sit for his SCI level security clearance screening and obtain it, successfully pass it. So please do that. Of course, there's the high-speed rail consultation as well at altotrain.ca. Please participate in that if you can. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs, don't drink and podcast. That's all I will say. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that could probably use that advice. I won't say who. I won't name names. But yeah, don't drink and pod. All right, kids and cubs, it can be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now at the count of 3, may I please hear you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. And since we're in Mexico, 1, 2, 3. Ah, fantástico. I cannot resist. And as your reina, here you go. A little cock-a-doodle-doo for you.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
And kids and cubs, just a little bit of news for you. While I'm here in Mexico, I'm going to be doing something interesting tomorrow. Tomorrow, there is a fundraising event that focuses on a documentary that was made about the Delvin Vrint case. If you remember, a while ago, we had a guest, Murray Billett, that was talking to us about how the case went through the courts. That was the case that made it such that discrimination against LGBTQ plus 2S LGBTQ plus IA people was deemed unconstitutional. It's a documentary about the whole process called Pride and Prejudice, and I'm going to go there and take a look at it tomorrow and hopefully get some time to speak with Mary Billett and maybe even an associate producer of the documentary. So hopefully the microphone will work and I will be able to get a little bit of chat with them. So yeah, fingers crossed that all goes well. But hey, what serendipity. So I will actually be able to bring you back some actual content from Mexico for the show, for showing at a later date. That's all I got for you. Amor y besitos. Et a la próxima vez. Bye, everyone.